When he said, "She just understands me better," I didn't cry. I just smiled and made him dinner. He thought silence meant surrender. But I'd already started leaving, one quiet, deliberate step at a time. Some wars aren't fought with words, they're won in silence. Have you ever forgiven someone who didn't deserve it, just to prove you'd moved on? That was me, not out loud, not in a letter, not even in a whispered conversation between two tired hearts, but in the quiet, in the way I stopped waiting for apologies, in how I gave him back everything, his freedom, his choices, his excuses, and took back what was mine, my peace. You never think it'll be you, the woman who loves him through childbirth, only to find he's been loving someone else. But grief makes you curious, and curiosity made me stay a little longer than I should have. Not to keep him, but to watch him lose me, slowly, sweetly, without ever raising my voice. That's the thing about grace. It looks a lot like surrender, until the dust clears, and you realize she was just getting out of the way. When our son was born, something in me shifted. Not just my body, though that changed in ways I wasn't prepared for. Not just my schedule, my sleep, or my freedom. Something deeper. I became a new version of myself. One who would wake in the middle of the night just to make sure he was breathing. One who forgot meals, showers, and even the sound of her own voice sometimes, just to keep this tiny life safe and loved. I thought I was sharing that transformation with him, my husband. I thought we were building something sacred together, a family. But I didn't notice how far away his eyes had drifted, how often he chose silence over presence, how his phone became his companion more than I was. I blamed myself at first. Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough. Maybe I wasn't interesting anymore. Maybe this was just what marriage looked like after the baby came. I used to love the way he reached for me in crowded rooms, the quiet claim of it. Once he slipped a note into my pocket at a dinner party. "You're still my favorite distraction," it said. I kept that scrap of paper for years until the ink faded, until we did. Then, one afternoon, while folding laundry, I heard his phone vibrate. A name flashed across the screen, not saved but frequent, curious, almost familiar. I didn't mean to open it, but I did. Thousands of messages, stretching back weeks, maybe months, love notes, inside jokes, plans for evenings I thought he'd spent working late. His words, alive, funny, flirtatious, words I hadn't heard in what felt like forever. She made him feel seen, he said, alive again. He wrote that she had time for him, that she made him a priority, that she didn't have stretch marks or spit up on her shirt, that she made him feel like a man. I sat in that moment so still I could hear my heart breaking. And the worst part, I understood why. It wasn't rage I felt, it was vacancy. Like something had slipped out of me and left nothing behind. I didn't scream, I didn't throw anything, I didn't even cry, not then. I just kept reading. With every word, I felt the temperature of our home drop. The curtains still moved with the evening breeze. The baby monitor still hummed in the corner. Ordinary sounds carrying a new cruelty. I realized I was sharing oxygen with a ghost. The man beside me wasn't mine anymore. He was already living inside another woman's laughter. And somewhere between "I miss your skin" and "she's so tired all the time," I realized he wasn't just cheating on me. He was rewriting our story without me in it. I thought about confronting him that night, about laying it all bare, but something stopped me. It wasn't fear, it was clarity. Clarity, I learned, is colder than anger. It doesn't shout, it studies. I lay beside him that night, counting the rhythm of his breathing, matching mine to it until the space between us sounded like forgiveness. But it wasn't. It was reconnaissance, quiet, merciful reconnaissance. He had already made his choice, but so had I. I would not let my son's first chapter be defined by betrayal and broken glass. I would not be the woman who begged for the love she already gave freely. If he wanted out, truly, I would give him that. But not before I showed him exactly what he was walking away from. I kissed him goodnight like nothing had changed, and in the morning I smiled like my world hadn't tilted sideways. He didn't know it yet, but that was the moment I started to leave him. One quiet, graceful step at a time. I became a woman with a plan. Every morning I rehearsed the same small kindnesses. Coffee, just how he liked it. A touch on his sleeve. The easy laughter that used to be mine. Each gesture was a thread I'd learned to cut with a smile. It's strange, the power in pretending, how tenderness can disguise strategy, how a kiss can carry the precision of an exit wound. Not the kind that involved payback or public scenes. No late-night confrontations, no threats, no ultimatums. I didn't want him to suffer. I wanted him to see and feel exactly what he'd given up. And I wanted to walk away with my dignity intact. So I started with his fantasy. In every message he sent her, he described what he missed, what I wasn't, what she gave him. I read each one like a manual. Not because I wanted to be her, but because I wanted him to see that even his wildest longing couldn't compete with the version of me that chose to leave. I became warm again, playful, soft in the ways he remembered. I cooked his favorite meals, sent him cheeky messages during his workday, reached for him when we passed in the hallway. At first, he was confused, almost suspicious. I watched him study me, unsure whether this was a trap or a miracle. Once that same gaze made me blush. Now it only confirmed how little he saw. I wondered if he noticed the difference in my smile, the one that didn't reach my eyes. Maybe he thought he'd earned forgiveness. Maybe he never learned that mercy can be sharpened too. Sometimes, when he laughed at the new softness in me, I almost forgot what I was doing. I caught myself memorizing him again. The curve of his neck, the scent of his cologne. It frightened me how easily love could masquerade as strategy. So I reminded myself, every touch was a rehearsal for goodbye. Every smile was the sound of a door quietly unlocking. He kept seeing her. I knew when the plans were made. He got a little extra dressed up, wore his cologne differently. I never said a word. But I made sure he came home late and exhausted, not from sex, from joy, from feeling seen. I became the woman he wanted, but only long enough for him to want me again. And it worked. Sometimes curiosity got the better of me, and I'd glance at his screen when he left it face up. The messages changed first, shorter, slower, tired. I didn't need to read them all. His eyes told me enough. The glow of their secret was dying, one unread text at a time. The messages changed first. His replies to her grew slower, shorter, almost weary. The jokes faded, the spark dimmed. I watched the glow of their secret die, one unread text at a time. Then one night, I saw the words that confirmed it. "I can't do this anymore," he told her. "I love my wife." "Things are good again," he ended it. He thought he had me back, and to be honest, for a second it almost felt like a win, like I'd reversed the clock and salvaged the dream. But then he came home, kissed me on the forehead, and called me his everything. And I didn't feel anything, because I already knew. I wasn't winning him back. I was setting him up to lose me. I opened a new bank account under my name, moved half of our shared savings, not hidden, just secured, documented everything. Spoke to a lawyer, made custody arrangements, toured apartments, all with a gentle smile and warm dinners waiting. He never saw it coming. Because I wasn't angry, I was quiet. And quiet women, I've learned, are often mistaken for weak until they leave. I chose April 1st for the move. He always loved April Fools, thought it was the perfect mix of mischief and timing. And I agreed. There was something poetic about letting him believe everything was fine, until the day he walked into a house that was no longer mine. The morning light spilled across the kitchen tiles, touching everything I was about to leave behind. The coffee mug he loved, the photo of us in Rome, our son's toy car stuck under the chair leg. I ran my hand across the table one last time, as if I could smooth out the memories. Every surface knew a version of us. By nightfall, it would know only me. I wrote the divorce letter by hand. I sealed the envelope and pressed my thumbprint into the fold, as if leaving behind proof that I had once existed in this story. The ink hadn't dried when I realized I didn't need him to read it. The act of writing was enough, a ceremony of release disguised as a farewell note. Not to be romantic, but to be clear, calm, final. I'm not in love with you anymore. And I don't want to be. I wasn't planning to tell him about the affair, not because he didn't deserve to hear it, but because he didn't deserve relief. Let him wonder why. Let him spiral. Let him blame the weather, the stress, the fact that I changed. Let him search for a villain in a story where the only twist was me walking away with grace. April 1st came without ceremony. The night before, I couldn't sleep. I stood by our son's crib, listening to his small breaths, steadying the storm inside me. On the dresser sat our wedding photo, his arm around me, his eyes sure. I traced the outline of that woman's smile. She looked hopeful, unscarred. I whispered to her, "You made it out." I packed quietly. Our son spent the weekend with my sister. The apartment was clean. The envelope with the divorce papers sat neatly on the kitchen counter, not hidden, not dramatic, just there, like a folded truth. When he came home and saw the empty closets, the silence, the letter, he didn't cry. He stood there long enough for the sunset to fade. I imagined him touching the counter where my mug used to sit, the way he once traced the curve of my shoulder. Maybe he remembered how I loved my coffee, strong, quiet, and always cooling too fast. Maybe he finally understood the temperature of my silence. He called me 5 times. Then he texted, "Is this a joke?" followed by, "Are you okay?" Then, "Please come home so we can talk." I imagined the sound of his footsteps on the kitchen tile, the way they must echo differently without my chair pulled out. He'd always said the house felt alive when I hummed while cooking. Now it was quiet. His favorite sound once, until it turned on him. I didn't respond. I waited until the next morning to reply, "I'm safe. We're safe. I think we'll be better as co-parents." He told people he thought I'd hit my head, that maybe I had a tumor, that something had happened to me because nothing else made sense. And that was the part that made me feel the most hollow. After everything, he still didn't think his affair could have been the reason I left. He thought I broke because of me, not because of him. The audacity of that man. He didn't get angry right away. He was stunned, stiff, like someone had flipped the world upside down and handed it to him with a shrug. But then came the questions. Did I love someone else? Was I having an affair? When did I stop loving him? How could I not even tell him? I gave him nothing, because nothing was left to give. I kept it civil for the sake of our son. We exchanged parenting schedules, doctor appointments, toy swaps, the basics, polite, distant. 2 weeks later, his mother called. Her voice trembled under the weight of small talk. How was I? How was the baby? Was I sleeping at all? Then softer. I just thought you should know. He's seeing someone. Do you mean Karen? I asked. Silence, then a whisper. You knew? Oh yes, I said. Since the beginning. I could hear her breath catch, that small gasp when truth rearranges everything you thought you knew. She mumbled something about not realizing, then hung up. I sat there for a while after that, not angry, not sad, just still. Because even now they were all trying to solve the wrong mystery, how I left, not why. I brewed tea, the way I used to when waiting for him to come home. Only this time I let it steep too long. Bitterness suited the night. Somewhere between sips, I realized I wasn't waiting anymore. I was remembering, and remembering had finally stopped hurting. Not because I wanted him to be happy, but because I needed to stop being the thing he measured himself against. The calls kept coming, the texts. A week later, he showed up at my door. Not angry, desperate. The same eyes that once looked through me now searched for a trace of forgiveness. I didn't invite him in. Behind him, the streetlight cut his shadow in half. I almost told him that was us, one body split by what he'd done. But I only said good night and closed the door. Every night before bed, he sent the same message. I love you. I'm sorry. Please come home. But what would I be coming home to? A man haunted by the version of me he thought he still had. And the truth? That version doesn't live there anymore. There's a moment I'll never forget. I was sitting on the floor, folding my son's laundry. Some nights when he cried, I'd hold him a little longer than necessary. Not because he needed comfort, but because I did. His heartbeat against mine reminded me that love could still be pure, untouched by betrayal. He was proof that tenderness didn't have to mean weakness, the same way I had been when I found the first message all those months ago. The full circle of it stopped me. Same room, same hands, same scent of baby lotion in the air. But I wasn't the same. That's when I realized the real revenge wasn't the move out, or the silence or the reveal. It was this, being here, at peace, with myself, with my son, with a future unshackled by apology. Peace didn't arrive like forgiveness. It came like tidewater, soft, deliberate, washing the last of him from the corners of my mind. I thought of all the nights I'd begged the universe for a sign. Turns out the sign was me, finally still. Strength used to mean holding everything together. Now it means knowing what to set down. I used to think love was endurance, the quiet ache of waiting for someone to choose you again. But peace isn't earned through suffering, it's claimed through release. And release, I've learned, is the most graceful revenge of all. Maybe love was never meant to be conquered, only survived. Maybe grace is just the art of leaving beautifully, the final gift to someone who mistook devotion for weakness. When the night finally swallowed his laughter, I set the table for one, and it felt right. No fireworks, no grand exit, just the quiet satisfaction of choosing peace over proof. He mistook my stillness for weakness, but stillness was the blade he never saw coming. And somewhere, someone else is learning that silence isn't mercy, it's warning. Maybe he'll see me one day, across a street, in a cafe, holding my son's hand and laughing. Maybe he'll wonder if I ever think about him. I will, but only long enough to remember the lesson. Some stories end quietly, so the next one can begin louder.